A big hello, great parents, grandparents, fathers, moms, brothers and sisters, and friends. Wherever you are now, I can tell you that God loves you. That's why I am here today in your show, my home show. And the host is Felipe Hirwa Ndaisenga as usual. Today I am with Audrey Ndaisenga. She's young, but at early age she started reading Bible in the church. Can you imagine? So I don't want to tell her story now, but she's here for that, so that she can share the success stories, that love she has for Bible. So be ready to listen to her story. I am very sure that you are going to enjoy the story that Audrey is going to tell you just right now. So without taking much of your time, let me introduce to you Audrey. Audrey, welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So how do you feel about sitting now in the studio of a Catholic TV? How do you feel about that?
For me, faith has always been something that has been strong within. I mean, when you come from a Catholic family, faith is already strong in its own. But when you get to talk about it in an environment where it's not usually spoken about. For example, I'm young and a lot of people my age are doing things that they're not supposed to. But talking about faith makes me feel as though the world can change for the better. So it makes me feel as though I can make a difference. I can be the next person out there that can show kids my age that they can actually make a difference. They can choose faith over whatever they want to do in life. And faith will help them and guide them in all that they need.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Already she has a powerful message. You know, she says somewhere that if many others of her age can do what she's doing now, we can change the world. This is a powerful message. So Miss Audrey, let's go back. Then we see Audrey before starting the journey you are in today. So who was Audrey before starting going to church, reading Bible?
If I have to put it in perspective, before church, I was already a very outspoken person. I was the one person that always wanted to do orals in school, meaning like reading in class. If the teacher asked to read a piece in like for work, I would always volunteer. It was something that was very close connected to me. Being able to speak out. I was very outspoken, but the thing that was hard for me was making friends because I was so outspoken. Mm-hmm. It was hard making friends because of the fact that I could, if I saw a mistake, I would outline it as is. It wasn't like I was going to sugarcoat it. I was going to tell you a mistake, and many people didn't want that. I mean, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 7-year-old is not going to really they want their friends to be able to sugarcoat their mistakes and look past it. But then when you outline it, it's not the best.
So that he was just in general. So let's see Audrey in the family, in the neighborhood, and the time we started going to school.
For
especially in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood, I was, as a child, I didn't really go out a lot because I didn't get along with kids. So going out was not something that I was really fond of doing. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like going outside and playing in the yard. For me, it was more about studying and becoming the next great person. So for me, going outside and being in the neighborhood was not something I really did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, then at school?
At school, I was always in the top 10. I was the one child that the teachers always bragged about. At school,
that's nursery, primary?
It's been throughout. Like I was the child that the teacher wanted to stop answering a question in class because I answered so much in class. They would ask, is there anybody else in class? Because if somebody can answer so much in class. And another thing I did was, before the lesson, I would revise the lesson in advance so I'd have an understanding of it. And then in class, I would just answer the questions because I already did my research on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that time, can I say that that time you didn't know exactly who God is that time, right? Correct me.
going to church was something that I felt was mandatory. I didn't really know why we do it. But then the more I started getting involved in church, that's when I understood what I was meant to be doing.
So that time, what was your things that you could hate so much and things that you liked so much?
For me, are we talking about like in general or?
Yeah, in general.
For me, things that I hated the most was when things was not in my way. It might sound odd, but I was a control freak. I wanted everything to go my way, or else it wouldn't go any other person's way. I wanted it to go Audrey's way, or else it's nobody's way. It was always like that. Meaning if we had group projects, I was the one child. Nobody wanted to work with Y because it was my way or no way. So I preferred it if it was like alone projects rather than group projects. But as time went on, I learned that it's better to work in a group because work cuts down and the pressure of having to make sure everything's done is lessened. But the one thing I really enjoy when it comes reading in general, even if it's not reading in church, like reading in general, is something that I find fascinating. And recently, when I was in high school, I joined the Literature Society, where we write stories, we write poems, and we say it out. And that's something that I've been passionate about. When people ask where my fondness for reading comes from, it's because there's no other way you can put God, because you can always put him in words. Because if for those who are not able to speak it, they can always write it, and then somebody else can read it out for them. So words has always been something I've been passionate about.
Is there any contest? Have you ever participated to a contest, reading or singing?
I haven't really participated in reading or singing contests because the school I went to was not really one of those schools that we have these contests there for outgoing cultures. However, I have participated in the South African Maths Olympiad. I made it to the second round. There was 3 rounds in total, and I made it to the second round.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
So do you plan to continue with that, or you shifted at the time you decided starting reading Bible in the church? You said, no, this is not the right things I have to do, but this is the right way, reading Bible in the church. So you're still in the way of wanting to continue to participate in such contests, reading. Or
If I reading in church, if there was like a contest, I would really want to participate, because for me, reading in church, that's where I can really be in my element, because I can read how I feel, can convey the message and pass through what I want to say through the piece. Because when I was learning to read, the one thing that the teacher, not like learning to read in general, but like learning to read for the church, the teacher that taught me said that when we are reading, we are not reading for ourselves, but we are being used as God's people to convey his message. So as we're not reading for ourselves, but God is using us to read and express the word and share it to others.
Oh, wow. So somewhere you said that your character, the things you wanted to be in full control of everything. There may be someone who is watching now may ask this question. I'm curious to know about your dreams. What was your dream at that age?
Now when I've spoken about literature and everything, my dream might sound out of place. I actually wanted to go into the medical field. I mean, when I look at everything else, people always assumed that I'd go into the writing path or the preaching path, because that's something that I seemed to flourish in. But something I wanted to go into was the medical field. And when I say medical field, I'm not talking about being a surgeon or being like a doctor that you go to when you're sick. I mean, when I think about that, I want to go into physiotherapy, or being a travel nurse, people that help you after the surgery, because people forget the fact that, yes, you get the surgery, but sometimes people go through much more after it. And the recovery process is a lot more intense than getting to the surgery point. Because during surgery, if we have to put it in perspective, most people are unconscious during surgery, so it doesn't really matter what they went through surgery. It's more about the recovery process. Because through recovery, you lose friends, you lose family, but your physiotherapist is the one person that's going to be with you until you recover and teach you, and maybe help you understand the fact that you are going to be, that you might be less than what you were before, but you are certainly much stronger because you've overcome what you've overcome.
Wow, becoming Bible reader, especially in the church, it is not an easy task, because looking at the way it is on our respective churches, it is not an easy task, because you see that there are only limited numbers of people who are doing that. So I think I can congratulate Audrey for having decided to start reading Bible, to start serving the church as a Bible reader. It is not an easy task. Audrey, how long have you been reading Bible in the church?
I started when I was 9, so this year will be my 6th year.
How old are you now?
I'm 15 years old.
Oh my goodness. So that time you aware of what was going on? That time?
Because when you look at 9-year-olds today, 9-year-olds they want to play, they want to jump, but I was one of those calm, collected kids. And for me, reading was the only place where I could get control, because when we looked at everything, I flourished in singing, prayer, and like donations and stuff, but reading was the only thing I could truly control. I mean, like, I could control my tone. I could, because they also gave us certain days when we could pick, when we wanted to read. And as us, we were about 3 of us. Like 3 of us, we were 9-year-olds. But I was the only one that actually continued. The rest stopped when COVID stopped.
No, sorry. That was a kind of process or selection process? To
it's
select
because
who is better, who's the best?
It's because we were going to do our first confirmation. I'm not sure if it's different, but in South Africa, when we were 9, we had to go for our first confirmation. Well, our first confession. Sorry. And at the confession, they wanted us to have an understanding of what we can do in the church and see if it's something that we can flourish. So on the first Sunday of each month, there would be a service which there would be like the children's mass, if I had to put it in that way. And then we, as the children, we would be...
children of which age?
It would be the 9-year-olds.
The
people...
Only 9?
Yeah, 8 to 9, around there. And we would be the ones that would basically carry out through the mass. Like, we would do the readings, we would do the collection, we would be doing everything in the church, so that we could see where we fall in.
And you could do that. You could do that for how long?
Because we had our first confession in November. It was from February to November. It was from and the thing was that it was only when the school year was away. So if the first Sunday was not in the school calendar, we couldn't read. Maybe we'd do the Sunday as soon as school started. And so we would have 11. So there was basically 11 Sundays. And out of those, I did 4. I did 4 readings. And it was a whole process. There was 3 of us that we flourished. And the thing was that they also asked for our English marks, because they didn't want to be mistaken. And we had to practice reading. It was an intense thing. We would practice reading every Sunday. We would have to go to church regularly. And it wasn't something like you come to church one Sunday and the next Sunday you don't. You would actually have to be somebody who regularly comes to church. And you would also have to understand what you're reading. It's not... And
is there someone who is monitoring and mentoring the process?
We had one of the older readers. She used to read since she was she's in her mid-40s now, and she was reading in the church for about 20 years. So she was
The one monitoring the process.
Yes, and she would help us read. She would help us understand what we were going with. And then she would also tell us who had potential and why if we decided to continue with it, why it would not be something that was for us. She was the one that, so if you liked something, she would tell you, okay, you could flourish in it, but you need to focus. Or if she's like, okay, you like this, but this is something you're not going to flourish in. Pick something else. Because at the end of the day, you can't be in church and you think you're going to do well, but at the end, you don't enjoy it.
Oh, wonderful. So, I thank you very much for watching this show. As you can see from your screens, today's topic is about the reading Bible is the opportunity. Well, what is that opportunity? As you can see, there is Paul's letters to Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 to 17. Before we get into the core part of our show, I would like to invite Miss Audrey to read this out so that we can see the link between the Paul's message to our today's topic. Somewhere she said that becoming a Bible reader is like becoming the mouth of God, because you are going to spread the message, to spread the powerful message of God. So let's see the link between today's topic, reading Bible is the opportunity, and Paul's something he wrote to Ephesians. So let me kindly ask Audrey to read out this so that we can get into the core part of our show with much interest and curiosity. Please go ahead.
Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what is the Lord's will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have been reading Bible quite a long time ago. Is this your first time to read this?
I think along the way I have read it, but because of COVID, the reading slots got less and less. So it wasn't something that I did a lot. So I'm sure I read it along the way, but because of COVID, it's a lot. Because in COVID, there wasn't a lot of reading slots, and then schoolwork also majorized as well.
Yeah, somewhere Paul said, making the most of every opportunity. So generally, what is the take-home message if you read this for you?
I think that in that aspect, Paul is basically telling us that when you get an opportunity within the church, if we have to look in modern society, when you get an opportunity in the church, you should take it full on. Even if it seems as far, but if you get the opportunity, you should take it, and you should make the most out of the opportunity. Because another thing that my coach basically said was that even if it's you're the last choice to do it in a slot. For example, there were certain times when somebody would back out of a slot and then I would have to read it. Even if I had a lot. She said that I should just take the opportunity, because at the end of the day, there's a reason why I was supposed to read it. So if you take every opportunity, it will help you. I remember there was this one time when I decided I was not going to do slots for a while. And then somebody backed out and I had to read. And so when I was reading the piece, I realized that it was actually corresponding, because it was speaking about how, and at that time, I was thinking about not doing the reading slots completely, but then when I was reading it, I realized that it was basically something that was meant to be messaged to me, because it spoke about how we let other things distract us from the Lord. And I realized that there was a reason why I was supposed to be reading that. There was a reason why somebody else decided not to do the slot. So in take the opportunity, meaning if there's sometimes an opportunity for you in the church, take it full on, because maybe there's a reason why God gave it to you. There's a purpose, because God makes everything for a certain way. You might be thinking, oh, so I have to read at a Saturday Mass, but I could have gone with friends out. But then when you read it, you understand why you were doing it. Maybe it's a message to you that God wants you to see and you to portray to others.
Wonderful. And maybe on top of that, it is the only way, if I take the example of Audrey, of reading Bible in the church, by reading Bible, it is the only way you can understand the will of Lord. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now let's get to practical things now. And go back to when you started feeling that you were in the right way. So when and why did you decide to start reading the Bible?
So the first thing I'd like to say, it was not like I had a choice at that time. It was something that was mandatory because we all had to get something. I remember the first time when we were picking different things, a girl, she was at my school because we were different children from different schools. And I was already in the choir at school. She suggested that I join the choir. So I went to the choir and I was singing, but then I realized that it was not something that I can control because everybody else is going to do something different.
No, how? Please help us to better understand how that was.
I grasped the song very easily. Because I asked my music teacher at school to also help me with it because I was really serious about it. I wanted to do it because I like music a lot. And then I asked my music teacher to help me, and she really helped me, and I grasped the song very easily. But then other people were slowing down, it was different. And then the teacher says that, no, we need more time, but I understood it. I was like, so if I understand it, why can't everybody else understand? I mean, we're the same age. I mean, you'd expect everybody else to understand it. But then the teacher told me, no. It takes people different times to understand things. And for me, you're a 9-year-old and you're looking at the teacher and asking, we're the same age, how do you not understand it? It's like being in class and getting the same math sum, and everybody else is confused but you understand it. And the teacher explained it the exact same way and you're like, how? And the teacher said, I don't think music's the thing. I don't think you in the choir is going to be well. I mean, she had a very lovely conversation. She said, you're a very lovely girl, you have potential, but not in music, my dear. I remember being a little girl, I was like, but why? And she said, but I have something else you can do. And then she
proposed something?
And then she said, why don't you do the donations? But me being me, I didn't like going outside meeting new people. So I said, no, it's fine. And then she suggested, okay, so if you don't like meeting new people and you like working on your own, why don't you do reading? I mean, you speak a lot, you are very fluent in English, you can do it. And that's when I was like, but I didn't want to read. I mean, you're a 9-year-old, you don't want to read something new. Because you already have schoolwork and you also don't want to read something new. But then I started reading and I realized I enjoyed it.
Okay, and you didn't have that in your mind the time you were searching something else you could do. So reading Bible was not part of what you were thinking about that time. Oh wow! So
I mean, even my friends now, when they look at it and they're like, "Are you sure you read Bible?" I mean, I'm the very outspoken person. I will tell you how it is. People sometimes say I come off as rude because if I see something and I don't like it, I'm going to tell you as it is. I don't like it. Whether you like it or not. And it was also something that I was raised, my mother's also like that. She will tell you as it is, she doesn't like it. And they say we're carbon copies. So it was also something that I think was also genetic because my mother's the same way. She will tell you as it is, I don't like it. And me as well. I also tell you, I don't like it. If you went back to my class right now, they'd ask you, who's the one person that shut down something because you thought it was funny? Order. It wasn't that I shut it down, it's just I felt that if it's idiotic in a sense, I'd say no.
Yeah, please share with us how the first day looked like. Was it at the altar? Was it at home? Was it at school? The first day you started reading, your first day. Please share with us the experience. Was it funny? Was it bitter experience? Or was it a good experience which is memorable?
I'm going to be honest. When I read or when I do anything for school, I'm never nervous. But I'm 9 years old. There's a girl standing next to me. she's shaking, so I'm naturally like, why are you scared? And she's like, but the Father's there. But the Father's there. And I was like, and then she's like, and if you make a mistake, remember the whole church is gonna hear it. The whole
And
church.
the mic was on or off?
No, we were because the match was about to start. And the ladies in the back, they were doing the rosary. And
outside the church?
No, because we were inside the church and people who came early, because we had to have seats right in front. And then people who came early, they would be at the back and they would be saying the rosary, because we had a rosary group. And then I'm trying to do the rosary with them, because when we used to come early, I also used to do the rosary. And I'm doing the rosary with her, and then she's shaking, and then she's patting, Audrey, aren't you nervous? No. And she's like, but why? And then I said, exactly, but why are you nervous? And she's like, but the thing is, the Father's there. The Father's there. Aren't you scared? Why? If you make a mistake, and she's making me scared, and then afterwards, the Father walked in, and then they said the prayer that they start off, and then when we were there, then she was doing the first reading, and I was doing the second reading. So she was doing the first reading, and then she did the psalm that I had to go with it. And midway through the psalm, I realized, wait, everybody's here, the Father's there, and that's when the panic just came. Like the panic came, and then I remembered, oh, there are people that I go to school with. They can talk about this tomorrow at school. There was this one girl, she was in my class as well. I don't think she liked me very much. I don't think she likes me still, but still. And she was sitting like here's my row, here her row was, and then there's the altar, and like she's looking directly at me. And she's like, but I know she doesn't mean it.
Why?
I mean, a mother was sitting there and a father was in it, and they like me a lot. I was a child that they compared it to. And she's like, but I know she didn't mean it.
And then what could you feel that time?
I looked at her and I was like,
moment.
I looked at everybody and I was like, everybody set me up. I know it, because if I was with the choir, I would not be the main attention. I know it. If I was with the collection, I know I would not be the center of attention. They set me up, and I was like certain they set me up. And then afterwards, and then I turned, and then my dad was here as well. He's like, he's smiling, and my first thought was like, why? How are you so happy? You're not the one that's happier. And then I went, and then I remember I touched the book, and I was like shaking. I had to turn this, and I had to turn the page. And then as soon as I started reading, I forgot about everybody else. And then I finished. There was no mistakes, and I was fine.
How do you know that there was no mistake?
I practiced, like really bad.
Before that day, you practiced?
Yes.
Okay. And also, do you have some practices before, in general, to know how you have to walk, where you have to stand, and where you have to bend?
We had like intense practices.
And before an evening at home, you practiced what you are going to do?
I would sit with my reading here, the Bible here, a dictionary, like 2 different dictionaries. Google, and then I would look. And I would like, wait, but this doesn't sound the same as that. And then I would search it up and I was like, oh, they mean the same thing. And then I would continue reading. And then if I couldn't pronounce a word, another thing is that my parents are very work orientated. So if I couldn't pronounce a word, then I would go and Google, and then I would listen to the translator to pronounce the word. But here's the thing, they also pronounce it funny sometimes. And then I have to go into the dictionary, and I have to see how they break it down, and then I would read. And then I would ask my teacher, ma'am, how do you pronounce this word? And then she would say it. And then I said it right. And then I'd do a pat on the shoulder and move on. And then I would practice. Like, I took that more serious than I took schoolwork. I was like, I'm reading. I have to be very serious. And like I remember there was a lady that she was also reading. She was also a reader, and I copied the way she sat in church. I copied the way she sat in church. I was like, and then when somebody called it, the wave and everything, I looked in front of me. Okay, I'm okay. And then the girl made me nervous.
Yeah, I remember when I was your age, I dreamed of becoming a fighter like Bruce Lee. So for your time, so who do you have someone who you dreamed of copying or imitating the way the person could read in the church?
There was not. I didn't really know the people's names in church, but there was this one lady. She was not my coach, but when I...
Someone you could take like your role model in that domain.
She was also in the church. She did reading. Her daughter did reading. And like they were the family that I looked up to. I was like, I want to be her. And then she was like, when I was turning 9, that was my first Holy Communion. And then that's when that like really serious, because on the day of, we had to be perfect. They were teaching us everything that had to get done. And she was there, and I would remember I would practice reading, and then she looked at me and she's like, and I remember the one time she came to me, she's like, why are you taking this more serious? Why are you taking this very seriously? I mean, it's just reading. I mean, most girls your age want to go and play, and I'm like, and I said, I want to be just like you. I mean, 10-year-old, you're not really thinking what you're saying. Like, I want to be just like you. And then she smiled and she said, okay. And then she went on. I think she still thinks I'm crazy for saying that. I mean, she looks at me odd when I look at her in church. I mean, she still does. Anyway.
Was it your first time for public speaking or public reading? Generally speaking. No,
in class I was the loudest. I was very loud.
Really? So the audience was the same, I mean, size-wise?
No, it wasn't. It was like double the size. I mean,
roughly how many?
In class, we are roughly 35. In church, it was roughly 100.
100. Wow, so
like 100 to 150.
So please share with us the difference between reading books in general and reading the book with capital, the Bible.
Reading books in general, what I like to read is fiction, meaning something that somebody thought up and they wrote. So meaning, when you're reading a book, you're reading what this other person wants you to imagine, meaning this probably never happened. It's something that you can imagine in your own life. But when you read the Bible, you are reading through life experiences. You are reading about what other people had to overcome to make faith be heard. You are reading what they had to overcome. You are reading what happened back then. You are reading basically the guide of how they wanted us to live our lives. And in a sense, they have rules and regulations that we have to follow out, but as people, we don't really follow it out. I mean, when you read the Bible and you read a book, it's two completely different things. I mean, you imagine an image in your head, but in the Bible, there's always that reminder that says, this is real, right? This is somebody's actual experiences. This is somebody who has actually been through this. And you should be and you should be thankful for it, because if they didn't go through this, you wouldn't be able to talk about your faith so freely.
Yes, reading Bible, what does it mean for you?
For me, reading Bible, it's the one time where I can really be alone with my thoughts, because when you read a piece and you start thinking, how does it affect me? What can I do to love out that piece? Because sometimes the piece can either be something that you can love out, advice, or it can be something that you can compare your situation to. So when you read, for me, when I read, it's a time where I can be alone with my thoughts and I can think, is this piece an advice to me, or is it something I should love out? Or is it a way comparing my situation?
Oh, wow. So I've got a funny question. So what are your hobbies?
My hobbies. I played sport, but sport was never my thing. I don't like running.
Sport.
Yes.
What kind of sport?
I played netball. I also tried running, but I have 2 left feet.
Because actually, the reason why I ask you this, because you seem to be someone who is passionate about reading Bible, yet you are still in the school, right? And at your age, men of young girls and boys, school boys and girls are busy with something else. So they are busy with finding something which can help their bodies, to shape their bodies the way they want. They are busy trying to look for a superstar to copy or imitate. They are busy with dancing, traveling, many different hobbies and activities. So that is why I actually wanted to know exactly your hobbies, if reading Bible is one of them. And also, considering that you are still at school, I want to see how you manage your time to keep your passion of reading Bible in the church. So, but before we get there, what do you understand by effective, using time effectively? What do you understand by that?
It's when you use your time properly and you don't have to rush through things.
Yeah, how? We have 24 hours. 8 sleeping, 8 working, and 8 hobbies and friends and family.
You can manage time if you don't procrastinate.
How? Yeah. Please help us to understand. Convince us.
I mean, I have to convince myself first.
Yes.
I mean, I procrastinate a lot.
Reading Bible is not one of your
I don't
hobbies.
procrastinate. For me, reading Bible is not a hobby, it's a passion.
It's a passion, yeah. I like that.
It's not a hobby, it's a passion. Reading, yeah, that's a hobby. But reading Bible, it's not a hobby, it's a passion.
But with studies, you have to work more than 8 hours and you have to sleep less than 8 hours. And the remaining hours, you have to use for family, friends.
My sleep schedule is very funny. I don't think I get 8 hours. I think I get like a majority of 6 hours. Then we look at school. On certain days, I have 6-hour days, certain days I have 7-hour days, certain days I have 8-hour days, and certain days I have 9-hour days. My school schedule is very funny as well, because in the start of the year we had to do an open day. It was like, it's something that in South Africa they do for this in the start of the year, because we have to apply this year for next year. So in the start of the year, people from other schools come to our school to see whether they should apply. And that day I was at school from 6:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the afternoon. So my school day was a long one. So in South Africa, there's never really a set time for school. So that was also a challenge on its own. And because of the fact that in South Africa, there's never a set time of school, normally when the days are longer, the schoolwork is lessened in a sense. Like the homework is lessened. But when the school day is shorter, the schoolwork is longer. So I had to prioritize. And in COVID, it also taught me how to prioritize, because we would get homework, because in a day I have 7 classes. Each of them are at least an hour. Roughly an hour.
7 hours.
Roughly. Roughly an hour, and then we have break in between, and we also have like a few minutes to get to classes, if you count that anyway. So the classes are roughly an hour. So if you have to put that aside, that classes are 7 hours in there. And then when COVID came, they had to cut down our classes. And now, because they had to cut down our classes, and because we were at school one day and the next day we were not at school, they would give us, and they would make sure that we have 9 classes. And we have 9 subjects. So each day you got every subject. If you were at school, you got every subject. And the next day you would get homework for every subject. So you had to learn how to manage it. Or there were certain days when the teacher, when we were working on assignments, and the teacher wouldn't put homework for the day. So it was different. But the one thing I learned about time management is when you start off with what is going to make you feel like, what is going to get you the most tired. Because when you finish for example, another thing I like doing is baking. When I used to bake, the one thing that I did was, you start off with what's going to be the biggest load. But because when I used to bake, I used to mass bake. Like for example, I would bake biscuits, cakes, and little treats. I would start off with the cake. Why? Because it's going to take the most time. Start off with what takes the most time, then break that down. If you're not one person that's going to be able to do that whole thing at once, break it down. Meaning, take what's going to be the biggest for you, do it, like a small piece of it, and then you do something small. One of my teachers in South Africa said that we don't eat the elephant whole, we take it bit by bit. So if you have something that's really big, a way to manage time, do it piece by piece. And then do something small, because it's going to balance out. Because you're going to realize, wait, I got Maybe you have a huge project. Maybe for school work. Okay, you do 1/5 of it. And then you do something small. Maybe you have to type out a document, then you type that out. You do something small. You're like, wait, I finished that and I got one part of that done. Then you do another part. You do something small. And while you're balancing out doing parts and parts, you will end up doing the work. And put a set time for how much you're going to focus on this. Like when I have projects, and it's a bad thing that I procrastinate and I do it like the night before, like the day before. It's a very bad habit. I think I need to break that. But that's a story for another day. I would have like, and the funny thing is, it's like the teacher knew I was procrastinating because the teacher would always give me like the most homework on that day. Then I would take the project, I'll take a piece of it, I'll take 25 minutes. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do homework. And then I was going to take another 25, and I'm going to do homework. 25, homework, 25, homework. And I'd be able to finish it. And like, I was good with that. I always had like a system for it. And if I knew I was writing like a very bad paper, I'm very bad with history. Which is funny since I read the Bible. You'd think I'd be good at history. But I'm not. I think what I would do was, I would study the essays. We'd get 3 essays. And the teacher said, you have to study all 3. And then the teacher was like, this is the most important one. And the one that she would like say, you don't need to focus that much on. It's like a very easy essay. That essay would always be in the paper. I mean, I feel like she also said me. And I would start 3 weeks in advance. Each week would be a different essay. Like, I mean, week 1 would be the one essay that I struggled the most with, like the one that had the most dates in it. The second essay would be the one that had dates, had more knowledge. It's like a mixture. And the last one would be the one where dates are not relevant, but what happened was. And that's how I did it. Always try to find a way to make the thing that you're struggling with the most first, and then work it down. It's simpler that way. That's how I manage time.
Yes. Thank you very much. Dear followers, I think you are enjoying the insightful experience which is being shared by Audrey. She's now revealing the secrets of the importance of reading a Bible. It is the opportunity which you have to grasp and to be able to understand the will of God. So coming to the end of our show, I would like to ask Audrey, looking at you, you are committed, very much committed, and like you said, you are passionate about it. I would like you to share with us your experience seeing at the law. Let me ask this in this way. What makes you stay motivated about reading Bible every time, morning, evening? Is there the role of parents, family, neighborhood? If
I have to put it on what stays motivated, it's actually more of who. Because the person that actually keeps me motivated is my father. I mean, he was the one person that drove me to practices. He would come pick me up at practices. Who would wait with me at practices? Who would ask me if I'm reading? Who would sit with me if I was reading? And if, for example, after school in the car, he would always keep the paper that I was reading, and then he would take it out, and then he would ask me to read it to him. And as we're driving home, he would add his input, and he'd be like, you see, at that point, I think you need to be more stronger with, and it was like that. He was the one person that motivated me, because I knew that he's always going to be in the crowd. And I remember the first time, I think I mentioned it, he was smiling, and he's like, the thumbs up. Yes. I feel like he's the only genuine person that had the thumbs up for me. And he was the one person that motivated me to go on. And our person is my brother. I mean, sometimes I wonder how we related, but yeah. If I have to look back, I think something went wrong, because I don't think we're alike. We are very opposites. I mean, he's 11 now and he's not as committed as I am. I think there's a problem. I think I pushed myself there, but okay. He is another person that is very passionate about being in church. But he is not the person that's going to read. I think he's more of the person that's going to preach. And I want to show him that he can read in the church, and he can want to do something in the church that's going to impact everybody else. So when I go up there, I realize, wait, my dad's going to be there, and he's the one that's supporting me the most. And my brother's going to be there, and I'm trying to show him that you can do something structured with your life. And then my mom's going to be there, and I know she's going to judge me if I mess up. So I have to also focus on that. I mean, she's basically me. She's going to tell me if she didn't like it or not. She's going to tell me if I was moving a lot.
Do you know Apostle Paul?
Excuse me?
Paul, Apostle
Yes.
Paul, yeah. He has got his own way how he met Jesus. In your experience, have you ever met Jesus, maybe through reading the Bible?
I remember this one time, I was 13. COVID happened, and I was really sad. I was devastated because a lot of things were getting cancelled because of COVID. And in South Africa, the last year of primary school and the last year of high school are always the best years. And now my last year is getting cancelled because why? Because COVID. And then like events are getting cancelled, trips are getting cancelled, and like a lot of things getting cancelled. And I was at the point where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop trying. I'm gonna stop being so serious. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave everything and I'm gonna see how it goes. I'm just gonna not focus that much. I'm gonna completely slack off. I mean, if it happens, it happens. I mean, I think that's when I started being sarcastic. I'm very sarcastic at times. People don't get the difference. That time I was like, there was no line between me being sarcastic and me being blatantly rude. That time I was like falling back. I was not really focusing, and I also fell into the wrong crowd at the time. I mean, at that time I also felt like I needed to find friends because high school's gonna start and I was the one person that didn't have like a set friend group. And then the teacher, she said, I know you can't do reading, but there was like this piece, I know you guys can't do reading anymore because church is cancelled and you can't go to church, but there was this piece that I thought would be great for you. And then she sent it to me. And the piece was actually speaking about how we and it was the same piece that I read that when I was planning on not reading. Like the same piece the person who's cancelled. It was the same piece again. And then I realized that it was God's message of saying, you have to pull back, you have to focus, you have to go back. You have to be more determined than ever. You have to now push yourself harder than ever. You're going to start you're going to start over. I remember I had a conversation with my mom. And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to make friends in high school. I don't think people's gonna like me that much. And then she said, I think it's people because I think it's because people are sick of you. I mean, you've been together for 7 years. Don't worry, they're gonna get new people are gonna be new people you can annoy, new people that you can be blatantly rude to, new people that have to get used to it.
Wow. I wish we could have much time so that we can keep listening to this powerful and amazing message and insightful experience from Ms. Audrey. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the end of our show. I hope you enjoy it. But what I can tell you as a take-home message, dear fellow parents, someone said that she likes the way the father is praying Kilor to keep her motivated and passionate about reading Bible. And as we saw it earlier, the time we were starting this show according to the Bible, so to be able to understand the will of God, you have to read Bible. This is what Audrey is doing, and this is what Audrey is passionate about. So it is something you can learn from her. It is your time, it is my time. So I hope we will get there. So all I can tell you is that God loves you. So stay safe, stay blessed. See you next time.